The numbers jump so startlingly off the page you almost have to rub your eyes a couple of times to make sure you're seeing them right. And just to be sure, you ask around to make sure it's not a typo or you misread something. Did you see how the Jacksonville Jaguars ran the ball 18 straight times Sunday to close out their win over the Pittsburgh Steelers? I asked Rams defensive tackle Michael Brockers the other day. I did see that, Brockers said, smiling. Of course he did, seeing as the Rams just spent the last week preparing for the Jaguars. They'll see them on Sunday in Jacksonville, and when they do they'll get an up-close taste of the smashmouth, hat-on-hat, physically imposing run game formula they've come up with to win 3 of their first 5 games to perch themselves atop the AFC South standings. The Jaguars, it seems, have turned back the football clock to a different time, and a different style and a completely different mindset. They've run the ball 127 times for an NFL best 826 yards and 5 touchdowns. And while they haven't completely junked the passing game, their 137 passing attempts and 798 yards are among the fewest in the league. The Jaguars' time travel back to a much more run-oriented time is partly out of necessity and partly the result of a coaching staff understanding its dominant strength as rookie running back Leonard Fournette, a bruising 6-foot, 228-pounder who ranks second in the NFL in rushing with 466 yards and 5 touchdowns. The stagnated growth of fourth-year quarterback Blake Bortles, whose play is among the worst in the NFL, meant figuring out another way to win games besides chucking the ball all over the field. And in Fournette, a big, tough, physical runner capable of punishing opposing defenses, they have the perfect player to carry an offense on the ground. Couple that with an opportunistic defense that has forced a league-high 10 interceptions, is tied atop the league lead in sacks with 22, while giving up just 16.6 points per game, and the Jaguars have created a successful formula. They're taking the football away. They're taking care of it, and that's a recipe for winning football in this league, said Rams head coach Sean McVay. Albeit an outdated one. It's the 1970s all over again in North Florida, where winning depends less on flinging the ball over the field and more on pounding the rock over and over and over to drain the will of their opponent. It's a little bit like when I first started, said Rams 70-year-old defensive coordinator Wade Phillips, who's witnessed the many metamorphoses of football over the years. Franco Harris and Rocky Blair and those guys that we played against. They had a great passing game too with Terry Bradshaw, but a lot of teams had really good running games. When I first started, everybody had leather helmets, so you really had to be tough then. But it's interesting to see that in this day and time, you can run the football and win games, and that's what they're doing. It's an old formula, but they're doing really well with it. Like rolling up their sleeves last Sunday against the Steelers, no shrinking violets mind you, and then repeatedly punching them in the nose to grind out a 39-upset win. Part of which included the 18 straight running plays they ran that, at one point, resulted in a 13-play, 67-yard drive that wiped 8 minutes and 7 seconds off the clock and ended with a field goal to go up 23-9. It was an old-school thing of beauty in both execution and physicality. Everybody's coming off the ball. They are getting some heavy box counts, but they're doing a good job getting a hat on a hat, and then when they get the corners and some of these cracker play situations, they've got backs that can make guys miss and get it to the perimeter, said McVay. So, it's a real credit to them. But also startling in its divergence from how things are presently done. 18 straight running plays, I repeated to Brockers. How's that even possible? Well, they did it, Brockers said, laughing. I've never been a part of something like that, from a consecutive standpoint, 18 straight times, because when you're in 4-minute drill, it's imperative you stop the run. But it looks tiring, that's for sure. And the Rams are bracing for nothing less Sunday at Everbank Field. You know where they're gonna be. They know where you're gonna be, Brockers said. So what are you gonna do about it? Kind of like man-on-man football. Brockers paused and smiled. I like that, actually. The key now is doing something about it. The Rams are coming off a disappointing 16-10 loss to the Seahawks and are beginning a month-long odyssey during which they'll play 3 straight games away from home. They'll remain all week in Jacksonville after the Jaguars game, before heading to London to host the Arizona Cardinals. They'll have a long break with their bye week immediately following, but then it's back to the East Coast to play the Giants on November 5th. On paper, all 3 games are winnable. But coming off the loss to Seattle, it's imperative they start their month away from home on the right foot. To do so, they'll have to put their big boy pants on and deal with the Fournette freight train and the Jaguars' willingness to feed him over and over and over. Brockers, who, like Fournette went to LSU, is a big fan of the impressive rookie. I'm biased. I'm a Tiger, so I have to like him, and I do. I love his style, Brocker said. He's big and physical. And last week he even called on a tackle. So you can see the physicality he has and brings to the running game. The key is to stop him before he gets started, Brocker said. Get to him before he gets to the second level. Because he can punish people at that point. The Rams are traveling 2,416 miles to play the Jaguars on Sunday. But in some ways, they're going back 40 years in time.